Caitlin Clark's golf debut just made me so upset with the WNBA.
The WNBA is immediately in a panic when the LPGA honored Caitlin Clark and shown that they have more brain cells than the WNBA. The LPGA, on the other hand, has eagle eyes and swooped in, realizing Caitlin Clark's incredible potential and used her star power to bring a new youthful vibe to women's golf. Let's face it, the WNBA deserves an Oscar for their amazing neglect of a celebrity like Clark.
Because the LPGA just did everything that the WNBA should have been doing this season. They did it all correct in literally one day.
That's called respecting talent, but the WNBA would obviously not get it. They appear to be allergic to growth, or perhaps they simply don't know how to deal with a unique asset like Clark, who could actually give them a much-needed boost. It's almost too painful to watch. You see her at this event, you see the kind of noise this is making, you see that it's trending on social media, you see that SportsCenter Bleacher Report, and all of these places, and you don't say a word. Where do we even begin with this masterpiece of incompetence that is the WNBA? The LPGA just gave a marketing clinic that the WNBA should be taking notes on, but wait, when Caitlin Clark accepted an invitation to an LPGA event, the entire situation took off in a positive way. There was a surge of excitement with fans pouring in like never before and a level of energy that made women's golf seem like the most exciting thing on the planet. The LPGA didn't just dabble in the sport, they were too busy dealing with their own existential crisis to fully embrace it, and it paid off handsomely. However, the WNBA, well, they were too preoccupied with their own league, so they did everything in their power to sabotage their own reputation, and yes, it backfired for them. Her celebrity power gave women's golf a much-needed boost, and the LPGA looked like geniuses for embracing it. You know what? Nelly Korda wasn't kidding when she said that Clark was a breath of new air. It seemed like history was being made, and you could actually feel the sport getting better in real time. While the LPGA was promoting this event, they also made a very clever move by pairing her with their current #1 golfer in the world, Nelly Korda. As a result, there are pictures of Caitlin and Nelly all over the place, and the WNBA is sulking in the background like a jealous ex. Instead of seeing this as a great chance to promote all women's sports, they became embarrassingly defensive. However, what about me? It seems that the mere fact that Caitlin Clark's fame was too much for their frail egos. The league's response wasn't just mediocre, it was downright pitiful. Are they scared of expansion? Do they believe that remaining the same is a good strategy? From my vantage point, it appears that they have a PhD and are missing the point, but a lot of fans were emailing the organization to ask how they could watch Caitlin, whether they could attend the event, whether they could live stream it, and other things. It was eventually broadcast on television, which was fantastic, and she created a lot of buzz online. The LPGA didn't just let Clark swing a couple golf clubs and call it a day. The LPGA took advantage of the fact that attendance records were broken and that fans were lining up to see Clark as if she were a rock star on a world tour. They engaged with these new fans, capitalized on the moment, and demonstrated how to market women's sports in the 21st century. The WNBA, on the other hand, seemed to be too preoccupied with their own problems to recognize the gold mine that was right in front of them. The LPGA was very wise to do this because they knew that there would be a lot of eyes on Caitlin. If they placed their top golfer, who is currently leading the sport and advancing it, it would be fantastic for Nelly, everyone else, and not to mention their excuse for ignoring Clark. The WNBA had the gall to claim that her fame may eclipse more well-known performers like Breanna Stewart and A.I. Wilson. Are you serious? That's like a band stating they don't want a superstar opening act because it might steal the show rather than welcoming Clark and seeing how can a league that is supposed to be all about empowering women be this insecure? They took the most juvenile and short-sighted course of action. I heard nothing about the excessive attention being paid to Caitlin Clark, which could have been directed towards the professional golfers present. These are the kinds of things we have been hearing throughout the WNBA season. And let's face it, the WNBA's paranoia is not only absurd but tragic. They are so preoccupied with defending their own small sandbox that they are failing to see the wider picture. The WNBA chose to pout and ignore the fact that Caitlin Clark might have brought in a horde of new viewers who would have watched both women's basketball and golf. There is immediate reluctance to give Caitlin Clark too much praise because they don't want to give her too much credit and forget about everyone else who came before her. The LPGA recently gave a world-class masterclass on how to leverage star power, and the WNBA somehow managed to become the archetype of what not to do. The gatekeepers sacrificing growth on the altar of their own pride. The league is clinging to an exclusivity that is not only outdated but self-destructive. Upon seeing Caitlin Clark, the LPGA saw right away that she was more than simply an athlete. She was a walking, dribbling marketing miracle and a game changer. As a result, they took her on as a partner rather than as a side act, and naturally, it paid off like a lottery. The crowds were young, energetic, and diverse, and the energy was incredible. The WNBA watched from the sidelines, clutching their insecurities like a blanket. They could have embraced this cultural phenomenon and ridden the wave to unimaginable heights, but instead they remained defensive and petty, as if welcoming Caitlin Clark would somehow harm their established player base. Clark was the reason the LPGA became the most sought-after ticket in town. If you look at the LPGA Twitter account, it is filled with pictures of Caitlin Clark, pictures of her signing items, videos of the fans cheering her, and photos of their players hanging out with Caitlin. They chose to have a full-blown panic attack over Clark's fame because, heaven forbid, someone else in women's sports shines a little brighter. They didn't want to put her on MVP ladders or award her Rookie of the Year until it became clear that they had to. There were so many things that felt like they were constantly reminding them not to do too much, giving her too much praise, tweeting about her too much, posting about her too much, or giving her too much media attention. In exchange for its royal treatment, the LPGA received unprecedented social media participation, an increase in younger viewers who were likely unable to identify any golfers prior to this, as well as a significant increase in visibility. You would assume that any league with even the slightest foresight would want a piece of the action, but Caitlin Clark did more than just show up. She changed the environment, introduced a tidal wave of new interest, and made golf the major attraction. The LPGA was pleased to have Caitlin Clark there since they understood the value she brought, but the WNBA did not share this sentiment. Oh no, they chose to act like the cliquey high school clique that doesn't want anyone new at their lunch table. They've convinced themselves that embracing Clark's enormous appeal would somehow erase their own stars, its insecurity on steroids. Instead of leveraging Clark's magnetic charisma, they've chosen to protect their own egos, completely ignoring the fact that women's sports collaboration isn't just smart, it's necessary. While the LPGA was busy making history, the WNBA was sitting in a corner, pouting and undermining themselves. We don't want to give her too much praise, tweet about her too much, post about her too much, or give her too much media attention. Caitlin Clark is the genuine deal, so let's just make sure that everyone else feels the same way. That seemed to be the general agreement during the WNBA season. Fans love her because she's genuine, passionate, and she brings an energy that transcends the basketball court. She's the type of player who can make anything go viral every time she steps into the spotlight. Social media goes wild. Kids see her and think, I want to be like Caitlin Clark. That's the kind of role model who breathes life into entire sports, the kind that brings in new generations of fans and inspires countless young athletes. You see her at this event, you see the kind of noise that this is making, you see that this is trending on social media, you see that SportsCenter, Bleacher Report. All of these places, every media outlet is covering this, and you don't say anything, and the WNBA had the audacity to think, now we don't need that. Unbelievable, they've missed out on a golden opportunity to boost ticket sales, increase engagement, and, oh yeah, bring in a tidal wave of positive PR instead. They chose to act like Clark was some kind of threat, a threat for crying out loud. She's not even stealing the spotlight, she's expanding it. The WNBA could have had it all. They could have been the talk of the sports world, but instead they're clinging to their outdated mindset. And it's almost painful to watch was the fact that the WNBA posted nothing, posted zero about Caitlin Clark golfing in this promo event if you look at the LPGA. The LPGA knew that by embracing Clark, they were fostering something bigger, growth, unity, an exciting new era. The WNBA, on the other hand, chose self-preservation over evolution. It's mind-boggling how short-sighted they're being. But here we are, the future of women's sports is all about adaptability and collaboration, not keeping things stagnant, yet the WNBA somehow thinks it's above that. They'd rather stick to their exclusivity and watch as fans flock to sports that actually get it, while the LPGA is writing the playbook on how to win. The WNBA is over here fumbling because they're too petty to see that sharing the spotlight could benefit everyone. Let's be honest, that's not just bad strategy, it's downright stupid. Yet, instead of embracing this era, the WNBA is busy sabotaging itself, acting like a toddler who doesn't want to share their toys. Women's sports are on the verge of something major, a moment where collaboration and shared stardom could change everything.